Like all dates in history, this one has some real highlights. On May 26, 1865, the last Confederate Army surrendered at Shreveport, thus ending the American Civil War. 498,432 dead, most from disease, not from bayonet or gunshot. If you want the most extraordinary read on this subject, and practically on any subject, I urge you to find a book called This Republic of Suffering, Death and the American Civil War by Drew Gilpin Faust, who just happened to be the president of Harvard when she wrote this book. It was this book that became the basis for Ken Burns' great PBS biography or documentary on the war. But having said all that, my personal affection for this date is deeply personal and somewhat frivolous and very deeply embedded in my psyche. I saw my very first movie in 1946 when I was 4 years old. The movie was the Jolson story, the musical biography of Al Jolson, who was often called, especially by him, the world's greatest entertainer. Jolson, who grew up in Washington, D.C., was actually born in Lithuania and didn't, in fact, know the actual date of his birth, so he chose May 26 and stuck to that as his official birth date. Wikipedia says that Jolson's performing style was brash and extroverted, and he popularized many songs that benefited, quote, from his shamelessly sentimental, melodramatic approach. I'm sure that many hundreds of thousands of young Jewish boys who saw this technicolor story of a cantor's son who runs away from synagogue to sing pop songs on stage and was struck for life, I'm sure that so many of us were caught up with this. The facts that my father's father was a rabbi and that I grew up in a seriously Orthodox home filled with music just added to the natural hooks that this story and this man had for me. The film was made and released long after Jolson's popularity had waned. It was a huge hit, and Jolson's entire career was rejuvenated. Probably a few millions of us bounced around our family living rooms in the 50s emulating this hero of ours. We had his exact moves down and his voice down cold. Several entertainers in the era made handsome livings being Jolson imitators, just as there are today and have been for years scads of Elvises, some of them astonishingly good, some groaningly dreadful, working the circuits today. I own old VHS copies of both the Jolson story and its sequel, Jolson Sings Again, and I watch these little treasures about once a year. Of course, I sing along with the actor, Larry Parks, who was nominated for Best Actor, mouthing to Jolson's freshly recorded soundtracks. I often get up off the couch and prance around the living room in sync to the actor's perfect moves, and I cry with sentimental joy for the music and for a big piece of my distant childhood. Without this signature experience at a young age, I would not have spent half my adult life in showbiz. Pickle. It really is okay to have guilty pleasures, especially when they have propelled you to a major trajectory in your life.